Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled Karen demands that I, a blind man, let her kids pet my service dog. When I refuse, she screeches at me and claims that I am faking my blindness and dogs are just for kids. Things quickly turn sour when she draws a gun on me and the situation becomes extremely serious. Here is what happened. I don't know if this is a little bit odd, but I'm starting my story with a question for everybody out there, especially those with service animals. What is it about service animals in particular that seem to draw entitled Karens in? I really don't know if it is just a coincidence, but I find that it is hard to go to places with service animals without having at least a minor Karen start some kind of BS. Okay, so moving on to the story and the main character of it, that is me. I am blind and I just want to make it clear that blind does not always mean that I see 100% darkness. I can make out shadows and sometimes shapes, I can tell when it is daytime and I have light perception. Other than that though, I really rely on my service dog to get me through my day. Especially when I am out and about, he's the only thing making sure I can get from point A to point B safely. That means, like all service dogs, he cannot be distracted when he is performing a task or I could end up getting very hurt. I had gone out to Target with some of my friends and afterwards I was starving and wanted a burger really badly. There was a good spot and while two of my friends wanted to go home, one wanted to come out and eat with me. I can eat out by myself, but it's easier when I can go with a friend because they have a car and the bus is a pain in general around here, blind or not. My service dog is sitting at my feet and taking a break since I don't really need him to task while I am just sitting down. It's almost like Karen is watching and waits for my friend to go to the bathroom before approaching me. She says her kid loves dogs and wants to know if she can pet it. Now, while he is not tasking, I don't let people pet my service dog because of the message that it could send. Petting mine could accidentally teach a person that it's okay to approach and pet dogs that might be working even while just seeming to be resting. In addition, the vest my dog is wearing clearly says service dog do not touch and I won't contradict it. Me, sorry, but he's a service dog, nobody can pet him. Karen, that's total crap, he's just sitting there and I bet he's not even a real service dog. You just want to be able to bring him in the restaurant. Go ahead, son, pet the doggy. Son, but mommy, the man said no. I signal my dog to go under the table to the other side of me, where Karen and her son cannot reach him just in case. Me, see? Your son knows the meaning of no. Karen, you shut up. Pretending to be blind just to be able to bring a dog around with you and then teasing kids by putting it in front of them and not letting them pet it. You should be ashamed of yourself. Dogs are meant to be for kids anyway, so we are gonna take him away. I have my hand on my dog's leash nearly constantly and was not about to hand it over to this lady. I wanted to tell her to go F herself, but the kid sounded young and I don't like to use bad language in family-friendly places. Instead, I told her that she was not getting my dog and to get out of my face. Karen, give me that dog right now and stop faking being blind or else. Me? Or else what, Karen? Are you gonna call my manager? I was really done at this point and she made a noise of going through her bag and taking something out. Karen, or else this. Me, good job, you expect the blind guy to know what you're showing me. Karen, it's a gun, a-hole, I know you can see it. So yeah, I had just accidentally egged on a lady who was actively pointing a gun at me. My friend had come out of the bathroom at the time and had no idea how I managed to get myself into that situation in less than 5 minutes. He tried to get involved and Karen told him that she knew I was faking and if he got any closer to her, she was gonna shoot him too. I assume he backed off and I was glad because I did not want him getting shot. I had mainly hoped somebody else in the place had called the cops once a gun got drawn and this entire commotion started. It was very quiet and I think Karen did not really know what she wanted to do next. I heard a thud and suddenly my friend was next to me and telling me what was going on. I heard yelling, but it was the voice of a man now and not being rude, but he sounded a little bit old. At first I thought maybe she hit him or something, but I was way off. My friend explained that the older man came up behind Karen and smacked her in the head with his cane. That Karen was in a heap on the floor and the gun was taken by the old man, so I was not in danger anymore. The police were also on their way, but I invited the man to sit down because I wanted to properly thank him for stopping Karen from potentially killing me. I found out that he was a veteran and knew some guys he served with that got hurt and needed service dogs too. That he had seen firsthand people like Karen, but not to that degree, harass other people. Then when he saw the gun, which was apparently pointed right at my face, he knew that he had to do something even though he had not served in many years. I could not stop thanking him for what he had done and that my friend was gonna make sure the police knew he did not do anything wrong. When the police came, I told them my side of the story, and my friend filled in the visual blanks from when he got back. Also, another group of people from the table next to us confirmed that everything we said was true. Then they came to the defense of the old man, saying that if he did not knock her out, I might have been dead by the time they arrived. They assured everybody that the old man was not in trouble and Karen was going to be the only person arrested. They used smelling salts or something to get her conscious enough to be arrested. She kept saying that she wanted me arrested too for faking being blind and my service dog being fake as well. I was more than willing to prove that I was disabled, but the police told me that it was not needed. She got arrested and I found out that the restaurant does have cameras, so the entire thing was on video from her coming to arrest me and pulling out a gun. Side notes that in the state I live in, there is no way to get a license to carry a gun even if it is concealed. So in addition to everything else, just pulling out the gun in a place with all those people was gonna get her in trouble. Not to mention her kid being there the entire time and witnessing everything that happened. It was the weirdest experience I've ever came across involving my service dog. Honestly, I hope that no story in the future can ever top it though, because I don't know if I could handle anything more extreme. As a final note, I want to tell everybody reading this that if somebody has a service dog, leave it alone. I don't care if you think it is fake or not working, the chance of disrupting a working dog is dangerous and could cost a person their life. And yeah, ripe stars, if you also despise Karens that claim that others are faking a disability, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, post some star emojis in the comments and maybe even like the video, because that would help me tremendously. And now on to the next one. This one is titled, Karen gets sucker punched after brake checking a pregnant army veteran and crashing her car. So I've been married for about 10 years to a man I met while in the army. We did not work together and instead met after both our tours were up in a group for veterans who were adjusting to civilian life once again. We hit it off right away and were soon married with a kid. Our daughter is 8 and I am currently pregnant with our second child. I'm getting close to the 8-month mark, so wish me luck, I know I'm gonna need it. Our daughter Natalie is a paraplegic. She was in a car accident when she was 4 and uses a wheelchair to get around, which means that we have a disabled parking badge that we use in order to park closer to entrances of stores or restaurants. We don't use it all the time and usually opt to park closer if a store is particularly busy or a parking lot is difficult to navigate by wheelchair. I never use it unless I'm going somewhere with Natalie, even though it's been tempting to utilize it during my pregnancy. Unfortunately, I'm used to people asking weird invasive questions about my daughter and why she is in a wheelchair when she supposedly looks perfectly healthy otherwise. I always stand up for Natalie and tell people that their comments are extremely inappropriate, after which most people back off. If they don't, we just walk away from them and attempt to turn the whole situation into a funny story to relate to my husband later. The incident in question happened about a week ago. Natalie and I went out to run some errands as we often do. We had gone to a resale shop to look for some winter clothing because Natalie was in need of a new jacket and buying it used meant that I would not feel bad about altering it. Her jackets often needed to be shortened so that we won't get caught in the wheels of her chair. We picked out a coat, some pants and a few shirts and left feeling satisfied. After that, we made our way to the grocery store to pick up some stuff for dinner. I pulled into the last handicapped parking spot available and began taking her wheelchair out of the back, navigating around to her side of the car so she could slide right into it. I made sure I had my wallet and some reusable grocery bags and started heading into the store, but then I was stopped by someone shouting. I turned to see a middle-aged woman, who I will call Karen, looking at me and yelling about how I took her space. I apologized and suggested that she could have waited for another disabled parking space to open up if she needed it, to which she scoffed and said that she was not one of those disabled fakers. At this point, I wanted to move away from her because she was clearly out of her mind, but she would not let me exit the conversation politely. She went so far as to claim that my daughter was faking her disability and could walk on her own, but that she just wanted special treatment. I told her to mind her own business and then left, leading Natalie in front so that I could shield her from Karen just in case. We entered the store and joked around a little bit about the situation with the assumption that it was all over. I started noticing that the woman seemed to be behind us no matter where in the store we moved. I thought I was being paranoid at first from so many years in the military, but she was not even putting anything in her shopping cart. Her eyes were fixated on us the whole time and she never even stopped to look at the products on the shelves around her. I did not want to scare my daughter, so I didn't mention it to her and instead focused on getting out of there as fast as I could. At some point though, some poor store employee came up to me and I knew the situation was only gonna get more uncomfortable. Another customer says that you parked in a handicapped parking space even though she claims to have seen your daughter walking normally and therefore taking the space for people who need it. He said, and I could tell by his tone, that he did not want to be doing this but was also trained to put the customer first. My daughter chimed in with, "I am paralyzed from the waist down. I wish I could walk on my own." He nodded and I further explained what had happened, adding in that Karen had seemingly been following us around the store. The man nodded again and left to go talk to the woman and hopefully get her to knock it off. I could see part of the conversation, but ignored my own curiosity to finish up shopping. We checked out and I didn't see Karen anywhere around, so I thought we were safe to get out of there and then go home. I helped my daughter get in the car and loaded her wheelchair in the back, strapping it down so it wouldn't move during the drive home, and then I got in the driver's seat. Doing all this while pregnant can get difficult, but I appreciate the challenge it presents, honestly. While on the road, I noticed a car behind us driving erratically and attempted to get ahead of it, but no matter where I went, it seemed to follow. Natalie noticed as well and looked closer, saying that the person behind the wheel looked an awful lot like Karen from the grocery store. I took her word for it because I was so focused on not being hit by whoever was driving. I tensed up behind the wheel and my military training kicked in. I focused closely on the road and every movement that the driver made, attempting to get out of their way or move further past them until they were no longer a concern. I was more concerned with Natalie than anything else and I instructed her to call the police since the driver was clearly targeting us and didn't seem too close to giving up. The car ended up getting in front of ours and braking suddenly, which caught me off guard and caused me to rear-end them. It was not a huge crash and there definitely was not a lot of damage that was done to either car, but Karen exited it and started yelling right away about how I had destroyed her car and better paid to have it fixed. I checked on Natalie, who was still on the phone with the police dispatcher but seemed to be completely unharmed otherwise, and then got out of my own vehicle. This woman got in my face, screaming and covering me with spit while I stood there and calmly told her that police were on their way and everything would be settled. She grabbed my hair and pulled out pepper spray, which she aimed at my face, but I shoved her arm away and punched her in the chest just hard enough to knock her back. The pepper spray missed me entirely, but some of it actually got in her face and caused her to howl in pain. The police eventually arrived and took our statements. Unsurprisingly, Karen lied about everything and tried to claim that I had assaulted her for no reason, but her story did not hold up once I showed the officers footage from my dash cam. I had gotten video of her erratic driving that caused a minor crash, as well as a video of her assaulting me. That, paired with statements from both myself and my daughter, meant that Karen was pulled aside for further questioning. I wasn't able to make out everything that went on between her and the officers, as I was being questioned a bit myself, but it seemed that her behavior was concerning to them, and they searched her car to find heroin hidden in the glove compartment. I pressed charges, of course, and I assume she was taken back to the station and given a drug test, so with luck she was charged with a DUI as well as assault. I'm thankful that my daughter and I made it through this situation unscathed, because there's no telling what this woman would have done to us if police had not shown up or I had not been a veteran. Stay safe out there, everyone. The next one is titled, "Don't Tell Me to Work Less." When I was 18, I started working in an ice cream parlor / lunchroom. I worked there every season, the summer and springs. My second season there, I got promoted to shift supervisor, which means more responsibilities but the same pay. Every time they needed someone to pick up a shift or start earlier, that person would be me. So, cut to my third season, I was starting to take less crap from everyone and generally standing up for myself more. I got a complaint filed against me from a customer because I refused to serve her once we were closed one evening. Instead of talking to me about it, I knew the owner personally, and up until that time, I considered her a nice person and she liked me. I started to notice that I got less and less hours. When I asked the general manager about it, she swore up and down that it had nothing to do with the complaint and their business just had been slow. This all kept happening until I got notice that they had overscheduled a shift and that I didn't have to work that day. When I dropped by, imagine my surprise that there was someone working who was not scheduled because it was busy. I asked the owner to have a conversation with me, and these are some of the highlights. Number 1, we don't owe you any answers. Number 2, you do know there are cameras, right? Someone stole 40 euros a week before. Number 3, did something happen at home because you are acting different this year? After this conversation, I quit right there. Cue petty revenge. I happened to know that their AC was ridiculously dirty. I knew this because my now fiancé worked with ACs at the time and had warned both me and the owner about it. Think about mold, dust, etc. in there. They had not done anything about it, and when given the opportunity to get a new system at a very discounted price, they just laughed and said it was too expensive. Guess who anonymously tipped their health department, and guess who had to close for a week while their AC got replaced and got a pretty hefty fine. Edit number 2, since it apparently is not obvious from my post, I warned them the second season I worked there, warned them multiple times before I quit, and my fiancé also warned them multiple times and offered to fix it for them at a ridiculously low price. I only reported them after I quit. The next one is titled Smart Revenge. I worked for a company that provides specialized equipment used in manufacturing. To protect my anonymity, I will have to be vague about what exactly this machine does. During my time working in this field, I got to know many clients who would need these machines installed and serviced. One of these customers we will call Jake. I later left the company to go for a different job, but Jake apparently kept my number. One afternoon I got a call from Jake that they wanted a new unit installed and another unit needed maintenance and wanted to know if I was available. I let him know that I left the company but that I could pass him on to someone who could help. He tells me he will pay 2 times my current rate to install the unit over the weekend. He lets me know that the company has increased the rates for installation and the company just cannot afford it. The instructions they sent over just are not clear enough and their engineers are scratching their heads trying to figure it out. He begs me to consider it and I agree. For more context, installing this unit can take a good few hours or up to a day on our own. The company gives you 2 options. You can either pay for an engineer to come and install it, or you can save money and they will send instructions so the customer's own engineers can install it. The instructions are not easy to follow and it is company policy that if someone has started to install the equipment, the supplier would not get involved since they could not verify that any of the pieces were broken. This will be important later. I drive down on the weekend and they show me the boxes of equipment. I set to work and I make good progress installing the unit. Around 6 hours in and I am stopped by Jake who greets me. I let him know that I'm nearly finished and he tells me, sorry, but they just don't have the budget to pay you. He understands my frustration, but his engineers can take it from here. To say I was frustrated was an understatement. I wanted revenge. There is a small button inside the unit that changes the unit into test mode. This is done to perform maintenance on the unit, but it is impossible to configure the unit with this button pressed. It is only possible to reach this button using a pin, so it is not easily pressed during installation. Because of this, the installation instructions don't mention it. There's no real way of telling the equipment is in test mode, it just won't work normally. And I think you can guess where this is going. I click the button, collect my things and leave. Monday morning, I get a call from Jake. I declined. I knew my old company would not get involved since I already started installing the unit and I knew his engineers would never figure it out. I just had to let him stew. A few days later, with many missed calls, I finally pick up. Jake is furious. He asks me where the hell I have been and why I have not been picking up the phone. He tells me they cannot figure it out how to configure the machine and they need my help. I tell him, why is this my problem? You won't pay me. He told me he was sorry and they would work something out if I could get there as soon as possible. I told him, "Oh no, you're going to pay me £7,000 up front before I do anything." I had never felt this powerful before. He screamed at me for a bit and hung up. He called back a day later after saying he is sorry for how he acted and said that if I could come fix it, he would pay me in a totally defeated tone. He tried to fight it, saying he will pay when I was done, but I was having none of it. After a bit of back and forth, he agrees to pay me, the money hit my account and I came in the next day. The look of confusion over his face when I took out a pin and changed the unit from test mode was priceless. It was even more priceless seeing his reaction to me packing up my tools and leaving after only 20 minutes of configuring. The easiest £7,000 I had ever made. Don't try to mess with a professional problem solver. This happened 2 years ago when I was 17. I had my license but was only allowed to drive in supervision of an adult. I had just gotten my very first car, a light brown Trabant 601 from 1963, which I actually still drive and love very much. Particularly, this happened shortly after I took my boyfriend out for a nice dinner date. We had just finished paying and went outside to drive home when I noticed a lady standing next to my car looking inside ominously through the passenger window. The cast is EM, you guessed it, S, my awesome boyfriend Sebastian, RG random guy, PO police officer, and me. S speed walking towards her. "Hey, what are you doing?" EM, "Oh, I was just looking at this car." Me, "Okay, could you please not?" EM completely ignoring me. "My mother drives that exact same model, even in the same color." Me, "Cool, could you back off now?" EM, "Don't you raise your voice at me, boy." S, "Lady, it is his car, so would you please leave?" EM not even missing a beat. "You stole this car from my mother." S, "Calm down, it's his bloody car." Me, "I will show you the damn keys if you don't believe him." "Yeah, right, you don't even have them." Me fishing the car keys out of my pocket, which had a lot of decorations on them. "See, it is my car." EM, "But you're like 15, you cannot even drive. You are way too young to drive that model." S, "She has a license, you moron, and even if he was underage, he would still be allowed to drive with me in the passenger seat." EM then proceeds to snatch the keys out of my hands and tucks them into her giant purse. Me, "Hey, give me back my keys." EM, "Assault! These guys are trying to steal my car." Now, I was just baffled and did not know what to say at all. S did not dare to try and get the keys back because he knew that if he did, he would actually be charged with assault or something along those lines. An older man that was about to enter the restaurant heard the woman screaming and came towards us and asked what happened. EM, "They tried to steal my car and even hurt me." Me, "No, we didn't. That's my car. This cow just stole my keys and is now acting like we're the offenders." RG, Okay, I will just call the police and let them deal with it." About 10 minutes after his call, an officer arrived at the scene. First, he asked EM what had happened and she told her BS story of how she was about to get in the car when S and I came up to her, pushed her out of the way and tried to steal it. Then he asked me what happened and I told him the truth. PO, EM, would you please show me your license, the keys and the vehicle documents? I don't know what they are called in English, basically the documents that show it is her car. EM suddenly got very pale and reluctantly gave the officer the keys and her license. EM, the keys are mine. The little figure belongs to my son. He loves Superman. The officer raised one of his eyebrows suspiciously and asked for the vehicle documents again. She obviously couldn't find them and said that she unfortunately had not had them right now. The officer then asked me to retrieve the documents, which I did, and they showed that I was in fact the owner of this car. PO, ma'am, you're arrested for false accusations, attempted theft and discrimination. EM, you cannot do this. I did not say anything bad. PO, to my knowledge, you called these young men a homophobic slur, accused them of something they didn't do, and tried to get them falsely arrested, which is, by law, discrimination. EM just got silent and followed the officer to the police car. I got all my necessary items back and S and I drove home. As parents had a good laugh about our story when we told them about it over the phone. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, then please don't forget to check out my endless playlist, which has thousands of videos and hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much, and I will see you again tomorrow.